First things first is you have to pick a legend. And by looking at one of the more slept on legends, you can really unlock a lot of value and a huge advantage to winning more games.
Oh no, there's another squad attacking.
You want to win at Apex Legends.
Mm-hmm.
First things first is you have to pick a legend. And by looking at one of the more slept on legends, you can really unlock a lot of value and a huge advantage to winning more games. And so we've compiled the top 5 most slept on legends and why. The
Mm-hmm.
first one being Loba, currently sitting at a pick rate of 4.1%. One of the things that we like to think about in legend design is the game pace and how abilities match the cadence of the game. Loba, being a loot legend, really lines her abilities up with the phases of the game. Drop in, use her passive to get an early speed and intel advantage for looting. Phase 2, use the bracelet to secure positioning in and out of combat. Phase 2 and 3, use her black market to gain a consistent loot advantage. This extends to ammo, healables, to getting your ideal weapons and picking up a Kraber from supply drops with ease.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Loba's strength, like we mentioned in the Tacticals versus Ultimates episode, is the Black Market Boutique. Its power is supremely underrated. Some more experienced players, like myself, early on, when Loba was released, felt that a loot legend was dumb. Why would I give up my other abilities to be a better looter? I loot just fine without her. Why would I want to sacrifice my dome shield or my bloodhound scan for anything that has to do with loot? Didn't really
Great
make sense.
question. Mm-hmm.
Boy, was I and potentially yourself wrong.
That was
The
a tough one.
power of having ammo, grenades, armor, shields, extended mags, your favorite gun at your fingertips is so powerful. Loba is one of my favorite legends of all time because we at the third party know how to choose our guns. Loba makes it possible to use the meta weapons every single time.
It's a gun game, first and foremost. We say it a lot, and Loba helps you get to whatever gun you want to win a gun game.
I think it might sound silly to some to think about Loba being one of the most powerful legends and really a slept on one at that. But the idea of getting the best stuff is how you win in Apex Legends.
Mm-hmm.
No gas trap or health drone is going to define most of your games. Gunplay and having the better weapon and equipment makes far more of a difference than any grapple or even a bracelet for that matter.
Yeah, yeah.
Black market all day. But she also has some other things. What about the bracelet? Do you think
Mm-hmm.
that adds a degree of power to her kit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be crazy to say the ability that we thought was going to define her as a legend and has come into the game and underwhelmed from that perspective is still not a huge part of her game. We're talking about teleportation. We talked about invincibility last week endlessly when we talked about Wraith. This is essentially that in spurts as well. Being able to travel from point A to point B without the fear of taking a bullet is incredibly powerful. I'm a huge fan of this ability. I feel like I get a lot of use out of it when I play. The ability to drop it down at any point really saves you from some of the animation time, which has already been updated in of itself on both ends. And so I think you really do have some power. And it's not like the top mobility legend, but it is a part of her kit. And I think it's slept on as part of the key. Like it isn't looked at as a Pathfinder grapple when it really does accomplish a lot of what that does at certain times.
Yeah, I look at the bracelet as ease of use. Yes, you have
Mm-hmm.
to commit. As soon as you toss, it's very difficult to
You're
get
gone.
out of a bad situation. You can drop it down early, but then you kind of risk the fact of being out in the open. But ignoring that, this is way faster of an ability than many may recall. The bracelet is really effective at closing the gap,
Hmm.
at rotating very quickly, repositioning. I think it's quite strong. And specifically looking at Loba in arenas, where I've been using her a fair bit as well, her pacing is excellent. The flow is really, really fun. Being able to have two charges for free on the bracelet allow you to grab the materials, grab the supply bin, get that early positioning advantage, and then the passive and the ultimate in order to unlock the supply drop. Really, really powerful ability. And when it all comes down to guns, Loba really makes a difference.
Yeah. Loba's also just so beginner friendly. Kind of like you were saying
Mhm.
with ease of use. Hey, I want to play Apex for the first time. Okay, I'm not the best looter. I might miss a thing or two. Okay, pop down that ultimate. And now you're going to be able to, obviously, grab the ammo you maybe forgot to pick up. But just while you're running around, you might not know, hey, purple armor over there. I wouldn't have seen that otherwise. I got to go grab that. And the bracelet's a
Yeah.
nice, I don't want to call it get out of jail free card, but if you find yourself ahead of the team, there are instances where you'll just be able to throw that back towards your teammates and get out of a situation you wouldn't have been able to. And like you were saying, it's just super simple. And that's a really approachable tool and one that I definitely think I think she's very slept on. I love Loba also. Ready to keep it rolling?
Let's do it.
We got Fuse coming in as the second most slept on legend. I guess not most. We're not going in a particular order. My bad. So Fuse sits at a pick rate of 3.3% currently. So even lower than our Loba girl. We kind of just talked about the game design from a loot perspective and what's the value of that. But let's talk about it from a different perspective and talk about it as explosives. We really thought this legend was going to break the game when he arrived into it. Explosives just have the potential to dominate and control games. And later we're going to talk about in the show Recon, forcing people out of cover. Explosives really, really force people out of cover, and damage influences a lot in Apex Legends, and Fuse leans into that with his kit. So Fuse's kit, just in general, top to bottom, is assault or damage dealing. Let's start with the passive Grenadier. The ability to carry two grenades in one slot is so powerful that in Season 4 of Apex Legends, it was removed from the game. But it got added back 4 seasons later to be a passive for new legends. So if you were a huge fan of nades, this is your guy. Throwables are just so good. Like the fact that you can wipe teams in ways or end fights instantaneously with grenades, and this legend lets you obviously stack them up even more. That's powerful. And the fact that Fuse can now toggle his ability to launch grenades with his mechanical armor without is pretty big. It allows so much more power to just be unlocked in terms of control. It was one of the biggest complaints I would believe about him upon arrival. Uh, we said it back then, still true now. We prefer arc stars with Fuse. Being able to use the mechanical arm to just launch them super precisely, have them stick is awesome. But just carrying 4 throwables in his kit is so powerful. You got hundreds of damage in terms of potential. Coupled with the rest of his kit, you just got a really, really big deal. How do you feel about this passive, man? It just blows things up, to say the least.
It really does. And the fact that this was something that was removed from the game and then
Hmm.
added back is a really great indicator that this is a slept on legend. And like you said, now that you can toggle it, it means that you can now use frag grenades effectively. And being able to have just double the amount of throwables is huge. I can say that we've always loved throwables. We always try to maximize them. But
Hmm.
only recently, in the last maybe 2 or 3 seasons, we've started trying to go for what's considered a sky nade, trying
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
time the explosion of a frag perfectly so that you can't avoid it. Um, I will say a lot easier than it may seem. You
Hmm.
see it on
Hmm.
stream, you see the pros do it, and you're like, man, I'm not
Man, I
an
wish.
expert at
Hmm.
physics. I can't do that. Honestly, pretty easy. With the tracing in Apex where it gives you the arc, you can really eyeball it and have pretty good success, I think.
Nice thing about explosives, you don't have to be on the dot with it.
Exactly. And so I think using frags a lot and just throwables in general and practicing with them very, very effective. I don't think there's anything better in terms of damage per second. So consider that.
Very true. In terms of throwables, though, I get double yours if I'm Fuse. And that's why he slept on. That's why he
That's right.
slept on. Let's talk about the Knuckle Cluster, though. A tactical with a truly unnatural low cooldown. You get 2 charges with a 20-second cooldown for the 2 of them and approximately 6-second duration each. You have nearly constant knuckle clusters, and it's possible, which is crazy. You essentially have a 14-second cooldown if you chain them together. There's only going to be 7 seconds essentially where knuckle clusters aren't available at any time. I loved looking at this when we talked about true cooldown on tacticals versus ultimates a little bit ago. He's very much a beneficiary of that. In terms of damage, the knuckle clusters can do 60 to 75 damage depending on if you stick them or not, which I will say we are both always surprised how easily you can stick a knuckle cluster compared to like an arc star or something. It's got to be that launcher arm or something, but they're just super accurate and really easy to use, which always blows my mind. And yeah, it's really 2 highly accurate arc stars for free on a crazy low cooldown. Please, please control combat, force people out of cover, destroy doors. You just got it all with these knuckle clusters. It's absolutely fantastic. And then let's talk about the ultimate, and we'll kind of talk about how it all fits together. But we got mother load benefits, like we said, from the true cooldown. Once a mother load is fired, a new one begins charging, even though those flames are still in the field for 17 seconds, which is a really nice deal. It's a 103-second cooldown. It is by far the shortest cooldown of any area of effect ultimate by 2 or 3 times. So you can use twice the mother loads as, Gibraltar bombardments, and that's very powerful in of itself. You get the recon ability on top of that now for attacking ability or building, and that could be a quite nice little advantage. You just get to create these death zones with Fuse, and not only is it easy, but very oppressive. Use all 3 abilities at once in a fight because 1, you can, and 2, the cooldowns are just kind of broken at this point. It's free damage with explosives, which are very disruptive to your enemies. If you haven't seen clips yet of Fuses putting down the mother load, trapping entire teams, launching a ton of grenades, and getting full wipes with explosives, I don't know if you're following the third party pod on Instagram because that stuff goes crazy every time. These are, first 2 legends, Loba and Fuse, 2 very different ways to play, but each are very winning. And Loba brings things to her, and Fuse sends everything away in a bucket of flames. And 2 different ways to win, but 2 quite effective ones.
Very, very true. Fuse is a ton of fun. And just the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you're able to have essentially free explosives so frequently is very, very powerful, and frankly a slept on legend.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have mobility, you don't have recon, but you have the highest ability at dealing damage without even considering weapons. And in the past we've kind of picked apart Fuse in terms of what's the effective range of his kit, kind of being
Mm-hmm.
that longer range deal. Yeah, that may be true, still is,
Mm-hmm.
but still doesn't mean you can't use the tactical in a pinch or the passive to throw grenades really effectively and to carry more of them. And so, all in all, the kit's very strong and worth using, and you can definitely win a lot of fights and a lot of games with Fuse.
Boom! Whole squad down.
Hey, brother, not today. Maybe tomorrow.